Hi guys, and a very warm welcome back to the channel on this sunny Saturday 28th of December in the mountains and the wilds of southern Spain in Murcia. And today I've put a route in on a GPX on OSM mapping, which is an offline mapping. It's a free to use mapping. You can pay to use premium services on this, but it's generally free to use. So today's route is pretty much about 70 kilometers off-road, of which I'm going to record bits and re-edit the video later on, and give you some idea of how this bike runs on different types of terrain. Currently on a road that's fairly shaly and sandy, and with OSM mapping you've got a good idea of where you're going, but you need to check on your map if you're not put a predestined map route in. This particular section of road is a mixture of compacted mud on the two side tracks where the tractors and farm vehicles have been, and very loose in the middle, almost sandy in the middle, so if you get in the middle section you can lose a bit of traction. Some section across dried riverbeds like this section, going up over rutty sections, and although they don't show up too well on the camera, some of the ruts are well over a foot deep, so you've got to take a good line, albeit that the Voge 300 Rally will go over anything pretty much easily. The long travel suspension makes it pretty good on most types of terrain. So guys, I'm coming up to about 450 kilometers on the Voge 300 Rally, and it's been a bit of a blast, to be honest guys. The surface I'm on at the moment, you can see, is very loose shale. What tends to happen on the main forestry roads and intermediate roads, what they do after we've had any downpours or rains, they do resurface with a sand gravel mix. And the problem with the sand gravel mix is the gravel is shaly and loose, and the sand, if it's fairly deep, is quite claggy, and you're skating around all over the show. So on this ride today it's going to be a bit of a mixed terrain ride, and certainly these rides are rides that I never envisaged getting on before. To be honest, I didn't even know any of these roads were here before I bought this bike. You can, like I said in previous videos, you can pretty much travel anywhere you want without touching tarmac or asphalt. And I'm heading over from the Campo de Ricotti over towards a town called Caraspara, cutting right across country without touching any tarmac whatsoever. So the full round trip is around 70 kilometers, and I'll put maybe a Rever file in the description below, so if any of you want to take a look at that, you can have a look at it in the free version if you want to, but you can see the terrain and where I've been. The outbound journey is all off-road, so about 40 kilometers, 45 kilometers off-road, short road section in the middle, and the return journey will come back on tarmac, so maybe 30 kilometers on tarmac coming back. So some stunning views. You can see why the spaghetti westerns were filmed here, with the landscape and the mountains, etc. And it's a real eye-opener getting on some of these roads. Like I say, most of them are pretty quick. You can get along quite fast on them, bearing in mind that the back end does step out and you do lose traction, and if you don't know where you're going over certain brews of the hills when you get over the top, you can hit a washed out area that's very rutty, and you've got to pick a really good line or you're going to lose the back end without a doubt. So my thoughts on the Voge 900, I should say, Voge 300 Rally, I should say. It's been, like I said previously just a few minutes ago, a real eye opener. You can see the section I'm on now is really gravelly and loose and not compacted at all, and the confidence it inspires, the fact that you can get your foot down if you need to, and it's light enough to kick the back end round and pull it back into line if you have to do that, is really confidence inspiring. I see a lot of guys on forums. I've joined a few forums with the Voge 300 Rally, and bearing in mind mine's only got 450 kilometers on it now. I've been washing it regularly, to be honest, and when you get back off a ride like this, it looks like you've taken it in a dust storm. It's absolutely filthy dirty with dust. You can't see the black rims, the engine or anything. It's really gacked up to bits, to be honest. And once you clean it off, unless you clean it really well, you get a lot of residue on there. Obviously you've got to clean it and jet wash it and get a foam cleaner on it. I see an awful lot of guys, especially on these Voge 300 rally forums, that have got these pristine bikes. In fact, they're that pristine, it makes me wonder that, you know, are they using them for anything but going to the local shop or tootling around in town and coming back again? I'm not overly sure, but they certainly don't seem as if they've seen any green laning or any dirt or any mud, or etc, etc. Now you can see now I'm checking on the GPS OSM map again just to see where I am. I've gone astray a few times because I haven't put an inputted map on here, and luckily if you zoom in you can see all the maps that go around. You just need to figure out where you are in relation to the mountains around you and pick the best possible route to get in the destination you want to go to. And straight ahead of us now is Theatre, and I want to go the opposite way to Kalispara. I've only got 2 lines of fuel showing, and I know that I'm no more than maybe 35 clicks away from either place, Theatre or Kalispara. But not knowing this bike and how it runs and how it comes to its low fuel setting, I'm not overly confident and go until it runs out and goes on the red light, especially being in the middle of nowhere like this. The problem with this type of terrain when you are here, you have got a GPS navigation, you have got a GPS point on a breakdown, but certainly a breakdown truck wouldn't come out here to pick you up. You'd be pretty much stuck. And the fact that you can go 20 kilometres in either direction without seeing a main road, you're looking at hiking back a good 12 mile, maybe 14 mile to get any civilization to get to the nearest pickup point. So the only option you would have would be leaving the bike, hiking a good maybe 12 mile or even further, and then coming back with a trailer or a van to pick the bike up if you marked it on the GPS on a mapping. So yeah, all in all it's been exactly what I wanted from the bike. I'm really enjoying the tracks, the trails. It's given me a shed load more confidence than my DSX gives me. Not that I'm not confident on that. I would bring that down these trails and do these routes on it. But the problem with it is the sheer weight of the bike. With the 2 side panniers and the back box, I'm looking at 255 kilos on mine. This is currently running at 255 kilos, 100 kilos less. And it's just a superb little bike to ride all round. It's great. I mean, even on the road going back, I'll probably be doing around 105, 110 kph going back, and to be honest, that's fine. You don't really need any more than that on A roads, on main roads. I see an awful lot of forums and a lot of posts on the 300 Rally where people are putting different sprockets on the back, different sprockets on the front. They're putting performance exhausts on, they're doing this, that and the other. Well, and this is just my opinion, guys, if you're doing that, you've bought the wrong bike, or you're using it for the wrong purpose, because this bike is an out and out off-road bike, to be honest. It will do tarmac, it will do city riding, no doubt about that, but in all reality that's not what this bike's designed or made for, with a long travel suspension and the way it goes. It's got so much guts and so much go in it that it really is at home where I've got it at the moment. So I think to all those guys who aren't getting the performance out of it on tarmac that they want, they've obviously bought an underpowered bike, and they'd be better off buying a 450 or even a 650 single, to be honest, if they're going to use it solely for asphalt work and keeping it clean every time they've been down to the local coffee shop, as some posts I've seen recently are. So this is a bike you're going to get dirty, this is a bike you're going to drop, this is a bike you're going to get scuffed up on the handlebars and the crash bars if you drop it. But at the price point, when you buy this bike, you buy this bike to have fun and doing exactly what I'm doing on it, knowing that if it crashes or if it goes over, it's not going to be too expensive to get fixed. The levers, the brakes, the full cluster on the handlebars are pretty much cheap as chips. When I say cheap as chips, I mean around €60 to get the complete thing to change. The mirrors, the body parts and all the peripherals on this bike are really inexpensive to change over, and to be honest they're readily available. You're not going to wait a long time to do the plastics or anything on your bike if you need to. So yeah guys, I hope you're enjoying the trails that I'm on. This is only a short section or short clipped down version of the whole run. I would say the off-road section probably took me possibly an hour and 20, and the return journey coming around the other way maybe 35-40 minutes. So I think it was out and all maybe 2 hours 20 in total on the ride. And as you can see, guys, we don't always have sunshine here in southern Spain. It's currently about 10-11 degrees, which is quite cold to be honest, but so guys, I went around the houses when I bought this bike. I looked at lots and lots of options for doing these types of trails, even down to looking at older bikes, and you'll have seen some of my earlier videos where I was looking at old Tenere 650s and old Honda Dominators, etc. But in hindsight, when I looked at them, they were just too big, too heavy, too cumbersome, and I think a lot of people are under the impression that they need something 40-50 brake horsepower to do this type of work, and I suppose then people are looking at an option where they can do road work and off-road work and get the ultimate bike to do everything. Excuse me, guys. But to be honest, as we know, there's no ultimate bike. You either have a good off-road bike or you have a good tarmac bike. You can have an in-between bike, but it's, to be honest, it's neither good at either, to be honest, on-road or off-road. Adventure bikes like the big 900 DSX, they are designed for what they're designed for, and that's going on long adventures on road, maybe a couple of urban trails or a couple of trails like this if you have to. They'll certainly do them. The travel and the suspension is good, but certainly rough asphalt roads where you've got potholes and they're not overly good condition, the bikes like the DSX 900 are suitable for that without any shadow of a doubt. And long distance touring, they're a comfortable bike to tour on. What I found with the DSX, looking back at my Suzuki DRZ 400, now the Suzuki DRZ 400 was a feisty little bike. It was the Enduro version, so it had plenty of pep in it and it would go. Same again, top end was similar to this, 125 kph probably. A bit quicker to get to that speed than the Voge 300. Not saying the Voge 300 is slow, it's certainly capable of keeping up with most traffic, even accelerating traffic without any shadow of a doubt. But the thing that you really want to get is a sweet point, especially if you're not an out and out dirt rider. Like a lot of dirt riders will ride a WR 250 and be quite happy riding that, and they'll compete against a WR 450. Okay, the WR 450 on the straight dirt sections has got the power to get away from the 250, but all in all the 250 is far more nimble around the tight sections, and where you need the weight to power ratio, the WR 250 certainly holds a candle to the 450 in them sections. So what you're looking at, guys, is a bike, especially if you get the 300 rally like this particular bike, a bike that's pretty much in that sweet spot as far as I'm concerned for what I want it for. And the problem is we're all different in our needs and our wants, and people get pulled towards certain bikes because of the appeal of that bike and the, I don't know, the hype that's been hyped up around that bike. So people will get a dirt bike, they'll buy an off-road helmet and they'll never see any dirt or any green lanes. They might go around a couple of farm lanes in the UK that are tarmacked with a bit of grass growing in the middle and say I've been green laning, but they're not really doing any dirt. But then you've got these serious off-road riders who will get the more capable bikes, and of course they're using them because they're capable of riding them. But the general public who are using this type of bike, certainly myself, my skill level and my skill set, this for me has got bags of power. It's certainly not enough to scare you silly on the trails. It's enough to get you down the B roads when you want to get back home. And the all important thing ideally is that you have a road bike as well as a dirt bike. If you've got the two bikes together, you've pretty much got it sewn up. You've got the sweet spot of riding what you want to ride. The problem a lot of people have got is they can only afford one bike, so they're looking for that unicorn bike that's going to be the bike that will suit all needs, and you won't do that. Aesthetically, towards your mates and what you're portraying on the street, you might look like this really hip off-road biker with your peaked off-road helmet, etc. racing around the city streets, and that's always been the case. Even when I was riding in the 80s and the 90s, everyone had supermotos, so they would get bikes like this, off-road bikes. They'd take the off-road wheels off, put smaller road wheels on with slick tyres, and they'd be called supermotards. But to be honest, it was just a bit of a fad. And okay, there were tracks that raced supermotard on tarmac, so there was that side to it, but it's all a fad and what you want, and how you want to project yourself on your bike. But in the real world, when you're buying a bike, you generally buy the bike for the purpose it's made for. If you're one of these guys that's always at the Isle of Man TT and Knowlton Park and all the races, you're going to be buying a sports bike. But in this day and age, with the speed restrictions on the roads and all the rest of the things, a sports bike is no use to anyone. It's okay, it's exhilarating when you can accelerate up to 70 or push it a little bit if you dare, but there's that many speed cameras now that you just can't do anything unless you take it on a track. And certainly here in Spain, loads and loads of guys that had previous sports bikes, they still have sports bikes, but they use them on the track. They're no longer registered, they've got no number plates on them, they're on a trailer. They'll take them down to the tracks that are everywhere in Spain. They're noted for the GP riders, and they'll have the Honda Fireblades and the Triumph Daytonas and all the bikes like that, but they'll use them as track day bikes. And 99% of riders are either using adventure bikes, or the other half of the riders are using cruisers because of the climate here. So it's a mixture in Spain really of cruiser riders or adventure bike riders. So them two categories pretty much take up most of the market, I would say, for those guys who are hardened riders and they're not using it for commuting, like going back and forwards to work. So a 125, 250 or a small capacity bike. The bigger bikes tend to be slotted into those two categories. So guys, would I recommend buying this bike? Well, that's a long piece of string to pull, to be honest. The bike, as I've said just previously, has got to serve a purpose, and it's got to be the bike that you want for the needs that you want it for. And in life we realise that we go around in circles, we make a lot of mistakes, we buy a lot of bikes that aren't fit for purpose, until we find the bikes to give us the freedom and the adventure that we want. And luckily the bikes I've got do that in spades, and I'm lucky to have a few bikes that fulfill all my different needs, to be honest. But ideally, if you're going to go out and buy this Voge 300 Rally, you're going to need to be wanting to go off-road at least 50% of the time to make it worthwhile buying it. If that's not the case, and you've got a full bike license, I mean not an A2, I mean a full bike license, and you're going out and buying this 300 Rally on a full license to ride as your daily ride, you may be disappointed, because there are better bikes for that purpose. Anyway guys, I'm going to wind the video up here. Hope you've enjoyed following me on this trail through southern Spain, through the mountains, and on my Vuelta today, my route round. Give me a like, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up. If you want to ask any questions about the Voge 300 Rally, I'm quite happy to answer any questions you've got and share my thoughts further. I'll be further testing this bike. It's nearly running now. I'll get a few more miles on it and then we'll get the first service on it. So ride safe guys, and I'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for following me and thanks for subscribing.